Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in life when someone you trusted, someone you cared for, turns around and hurts you. Maybe with their words, their actions, or their silence. And in that moment, you feel the urge to react, to fight back, to demand an explanation, or to prove your worth. But let me tell you something powerful today. Your greatest weapon is not reaction, it is indifference. When someone hurts you, the natural response is to react. You want to ask why, to demand answers, to express your pain. But here's the truth. Reacting emotionally only gives them more power over you. The more you show that their actions have affected you, the more control they have over your emotions. The real strength lies in detachment. It lies in your ability to remain calm when they expect you to break. Nothing confuses a person more than seeing you unbothered, especially when they thought they had the ability to shake you. Imagine this: a person says something hurtful to you, expecting you to lash out, expecting you to defend yourself. But instead you smile, nod, and continue as if their words meant nothing. Do you know what happens? They start wondering. They start questioning themselves. Did their words have no effect? Did you not hear them? Did you not care? And that uncertainty begins to disturb them more than any reaction you could have given. Most people thrive on control. When someone hurts you, whether intentionally or not, they often expect a predictable response. Maybe in the past you argued, maybe you got emotional, maybe you tried to explain yourself. But the moment you stop reacting the way they expect, the power dynamic shifts. You are no longer playing their game. You are no longer responding on their terms. And that alone is enough to throw them off balance. Silence is one of the most powerful tools you have. When you choose not to engage, not to justify, not to give them the satisfaction of seeing you affected, you take away their control. Silence speaks volumes. It communicates strength. It shows that you are not dependent on their validation or approval. And that in itself is a form of power. Think about the times in your life when you've seen someone handle a situation with grace and composure. There is something almost unsettling about a person who remains calm when the world expects them to break. There is an air of mystery about them, a sense of quiet strength that demands respect. That's the kind of energy you must carry when someone tries to hurt you. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you suppress your feelings or pretend you're not human. It simply means that you refuse to let another person dictate your emotional state. It means you acknowledge the hurt, but you choose not to let it consume you. You process your emotions privately, but publicly you remain unshaken. And here's where the real power lies. When you detach emotionally, you start seeing people for who they truly are. You stop idealizing them. You stop making excuses for their behavior. You start realizing that their actions are a reflection of them, not of you. And that realization alone gives you the freedom to walk away without guilt, without regret, and without the need for closure. Closure is a myth. People think they need an apology, an explanation, or a final conversation to move on. But the truth is, closure doesn't come from someone else. It comes from within. It comes the moment you decide that their actions no longer deserve space in your mind. It comes when you realize that your peace is more valuable than any answer they could ever give you. So the next time someone hurts you, don't react the way they expect. Don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you struggle. Instead, respond with silence, with composure, with self-respect. Focus on yourself. Focus on your growth. Focus on becoming so strong, so fulfilled that their actions no longer have the power to shake you. Because when a man hurts you, the greatest way to confuse him is to show him that his actions do not define you. His words do not break you. His absence does not weaken you. You are stronger than that. You are greater than that. And the moment you realize this, the moment you take back control over your emotions, that is the moment you truly win. Most people, when hurt by someone they care about, tend to dwell on the pain. They analyze every detail, every word, and every action, trying to make sense of what happened. They replay conversations in their minds, searching for clues, wondering what they did wrong, or how they could have prevented it. But the real question is, why invest so much energy into someone who has already shown you that they do not value you the way you deserve? The most powerful shift you can make is to stop focusing on them and start focusing on yourself. When you shift your focus inward, everything changes. Instead of asking why they did what they did, you begin asking yourself what you can do to grow from it. Instead of seeking their approval or understanding, you seek your own. And that is when you truly begin to regain control over your life. The more you focus on yourself, your goals, and your own personal development, the less their actions affect you. This is where most people go wrong. They get so consumed by someone else's actions that they forget their own worth. They forget that they have a life outside of that person. But when you make the shift, when you stop making them the center of your thoughts, you take back your power. You start realizing that your happiness was never supposed to depend on another person. It was always supposed to come from within. Think about it this way. If you were building a house and one brick fell out of place, would you stop construction completely? Would you abandon the entire project just because one small piece didn't fit? No, you would keep building. You would find a way to make it work with or without that piece. The same applies to life. When someone walks away or when they hurt you, that does not mean your journey stops. You do not need their approval, their presence, or their validation to continue growing. In fact, the best response to being hurt is to elevate yourself. Invest your energy into becoming stronger, wiser, and more self-sufficient. Instead of trying to make them understand your worth, show yourself your worth. Focus on your career, your passions, your personal growth. When you do this, something interesting happens. They start noticing. They start realizing that you're no longer waiting for them, no longer dwelling on the past, no longer seeking closure. And that, more than anything, confuses them. People expect you to grieve over them. They expect you to fall apart. But when you rise instead of crumble, when you smile instead of cry, when you focus on your success instead of their absence, it makes them question everything. They wonder if they misjudged you. They wonder if they were wrong about your attachment to them. And more importantly, they start to see that they never had as much power over you as they thought they did. This is why self-focus is the most powerful response to hurt. It not only strengthens you, but it also shifts the energy entirely. You stop being the person who is seeking closure and become the person who is thriving despite the pain. And that in itself is a message. That is how you truly reclaim your power. The more you focus on your own growth, the less their actions will affect you. Over time, you will realize that you do not need their explanations, their apologies, or their approval. You will realize that the pain they caused was only a small part of your journey, not the defining moment of your life. And once you reach that point, you will feel a sense of freedom like never before. True strength comes from knowing that your life does not revolve around any one person. You are not defined by how someone else treats you. You are defined by how you rise after being hurt, by how you choose to move forward, by how you invest in yourself instead of wasting time trying to make sense of someone else's choices. The best part about shifting your focus is that it leads to something even more powerful, self-respect. When you make yourself the priority, you start setting higher standards. You start recognizing that you deserve better. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop accepting less than you are worth. And that alone changes everything. People will always test your limits. Some will take you for granted. Some will hurt you without remorse. But the moment you decide that your energy is too valuable to be wasted on them, you step into a new version of yourself, one that is stronger, wiser, and completely in control. That is when you truly win. When a man hurts you, your first instinct might be to confront him, to demand an explanation, to express your pain so that he understands what he has done. But the truth is, not everyone who hurts you will care enough to acknowledge it, let alone make it right. And the more you chase after closure, the more you give them control over your emotions. The real power lies in how you respond, not with words or anger, but with action and transformation. Nothing confuses a person more than seeing you unaffected, unbothered, and thriving when they expected you to crumble. People who hurt others often expect a reaction. They expect you to beg, to plead, to ask for another chance, to show them that they still hold a place in your heart. When you do this, you confirm to them that they are significant in your life, that their actions have deeply impacted you. But when you remove that reaction, when you act as if their presence or absence makes no difference, it forces them to reconsider everything. It makes them question if they ever had the power they assumed they had over you. There is a quiet strength and detachment in walking away without explanation, without argument, without showing a hint of pain. That is when they start to wonder. They begin to ask themselves if they truly meant anything to you. They wonder why you are not seeking closure, why you are not reaching out, why you are not fighting to keep them in your life. And that is where the shift happens. The same person who thought they had control now feels powerless, confused, even regretful. But here is the most important part. You do not do this to manipulate, to play games, or to seek revenge. You do this because your energy is too valuable to be wasted on someone who does not appreciate it. You do this because your self-worth is not dependent on another person's ability to see it. You do this because you refuse to give anyone the power to dictate your happiness. Instead of reacting emotionally, focus on self-improvement. Invest in your personal growth, in your career, in your physical and mental well-being. Become so focused on building yourself that their actions become insignificant. There is nothing more powerful than a woman who turns her pain into progress. A woman who uses every setback as fuel to become even stronger. A woman who does not need validation from anyone because she has already validated herself. This is what truly confuses a man who thought he could hurt you. He expects you to cry, to break down, to chase after him. But when he sees you becoming even more successful, even more radiant, even more focused on your dreams, he realizes that he was never the center of your world to begin with. And that realization alone is enough to make him question everything. Some men only realize a woman's value when she is no longer accessible to them. They take for granted what is freely given. They assume that your kindness, your love, your attention will always be there. But when you pull away, when you no longer answer their calls, when you stop making them a priority, that is when they start to see your worth. Unfortunately, by the time they realize that you have already moved on. Moving on is not about pretending you were never hurt. It is about choosing not to dwell on the hurt. It is about understanding that your happiness was never supposed to depend on another person. It is about realizing that the best revenge is not anger, not words, but success, peace, and complete emotional freedom. Healing is a process, but it begins the moment you decide that someone else's actions do not define you. It begins when you take back control over your emotions, when you stop waiting for an apology that may never come, when you stop seeking closure from someone who never deserved your vulnerability in the first place. And as you continue to grow, as you continue to focus on yourself, something incredible happens. You no longer care about confusing them, about making them regret, about proving your worth. You simply become so fulfilled in your own journey that their absence no longer feels like a loss. That is true power. That is how you win. When someone hurts you, your first instinct might be to retaliate, to make them feel the same pain they inflicted on you. But true strength is not found in revenge, it is found in restraint. The most powerful way to respond to someone who hurt you is not through anger or confrontation, but through elevation. Instead of reacting emotionally, redirect your energy towards self-improvement, success, and complete indifference. There is nothing more confusing to someone who expected you to break than seeing you rise stronger, happier, and completely unaffected by their actions. People expect a reaction. They expect you to cry, to seek their validation, to ask them why they did what they did. But when you choose silence, when you choose to move forward as if their presence or absence makes no difference, they are left unsettled. They start to question everything. They begin to wonder if they ever truly had the impact on you that they believe they did. And in that moment, the power dynamic shifts not because you played games, but because you refuse to engage in their cycle of toxicity. One of the most powerful lessons you can learn in life is that not every action requires a reaction. Not every offense requires a response. Sometimes the best thing you can do is simply walk away without a word. Not because you are weak, but because you refuse to give someone the satisfaction of knowing they affected you. There is immense power in choosing to remain unbothered. Instead of wasting your energy on someone who does not deserve it, channel that energy into something productive. Focus on yourself, on your growth, on your future. Invest in your goals, develop your skills, take care of your mental and physical well-being. Become so focused on becoming the best version of yourself that their actions become nothing more than a distant memory. That is how you truly take control of your life. Most people who hurt others do so because they assume they will always be needed, always be wanted, always be chased. When you do the unexpected, when you simply let them go without hesitation, it creates confusion. They start to wonder why you are not reacting, why you are not pleading for answers, why you are not broken. And in that wondering, they begin to feel their own sense of loss. But here's the most important part. You do not do this for them. You do not move on, grow, or succeed just to make them regret what they did. You do it for yourself. You do it because your energy is too valuable to be wasted on people who do not see your worth. You do it because your happiness was never supposed to be dependent on their presence in the first place. The truth is, pain is inevitable. People will disappoint you. They will betray you. They will hurt you. Sometimes without remorse. But suffering is a choice. Dwelling on that pain, replaying the hurt, allowing it to consume you, that is within your control. And when you realize that you have the power to choose peace over pain, growth over bitterness, success over stagnation, everything changes. You begin to realize that their actions are a reflection of them, not of you. Their choices, their mistakes, their inability to value do not define your worth. And once you embrace that mindset, you become unstoppable. You no longer seek closure because you realize you do not need it. You no longer wait for an apology because you understand that healing is something you give yourself, not something you receive from others. And as time passes, as you continue to thrive, you will notice something remarkable. You will no longer care about what they think, about how they feel, about whether they regret losing you. Their presence, once so significant, becomes irrelevant, and that is when you truly win, not by proving anything to them, but by proving to yourself that you are always enough. The best revenge is not anger. It is not bitterness. It is not proving a point. The best revenge is showing yourself that you can rise, that you can rebuild, that you can be happy regardless of who stays or who leaves. Because in the end, your greatest responsibility is not to make them understand your worth. It is to never forget it yourself. When someone hurts you, the immediate reaction is often to question, to analyze, to try to make sense of why they would do such a thing. You might find yourself replaying every conversation, wondering if you could have done something differently, if you could have prevented the pain. But the truth is, people hurt others not because of what you did or didn't do, but because of who they are. And the moment you realize that their actions are a reflection of them, not of you, is the moment you take back your power. The real way to confuse someone who thought they could break you is not by seeking revenge, not by confronting them, not by demanding explanations, but by continuing to live your life as if their actions had no lasting effect on you. Because at the end of the day, what they wanted was a reaction. They wanted to see you struggle, to see you question yourself, to see you crave their validation. When you don't give them that, when you move forward as if their betrayal, their disrespect, their absence means nothing. It forces them to question everything. Most people who hurt others expect to be chased. They expect apologies. They expect emotional outbursts. They expect long messages trying to explain or fix things. They expect you to prove your worth to them. But when you remove that expectation, when you give them nothing to hold on to, they are left with the weight of their own choices. That is when they start to wonder if they made a mistake. The most powerful thing you can do when someone hurts you is to elevate yourself. Instead of reacting, use that energy to build, to improve, to succeed. Turn your pain into motivation, into fuel that drives you forward. When you shift your focus from them to yourself, you no longer care about whether they regret hurting you. You no longer seek closure because you are too busy creating a future where their presence is irrelevant. There is nothing more confusing to someone who thought they had control over your emotions than seeing you completely unaffected. It forces them to question their own importance in your life. And the moment they start questioning, the moment they start realizing that their absence made no impact, is the moment they begin to feel regret. But by then, it is too late because you have already moved on. You do not do this to play games or to manipulate. You do this because your peace is worth more than a temporary reaction. You do this because your energy is valuable, and wasting it on someone who has shown they do not deserve it is the ultimate betrayal of yourself. You do this because you refuse to give them the satisfaction of knowing they affected you. Healing is not about getting even. It is about choosing yourself. It is about realizing that you do not need an apology to move forward. You do not need closure from them when you can give it to yourself. You do not need them to understand your worth when you already know it. The moment you accept this is the moment you free yourself from the hold they thought they had on you. Time reveals everything. The person who thought they could hurt you without consequences will eventually come to realize what they lost. But by the time they do, you will be too far ahead to even care. You will be thriving, glowing, living a life that no longer includes them. And that is the ultimate response, not words, not anger, not proving anything, but simply becoming so unshakable in your own worth that nothing they do or say matters anymore. People often do not value what they have until it is gone. They take for granted the love, the kindness, the loyalty you gave so freely. And when they realize they can no longer access it, that they can no longer reach you in the same way, that is when the regret sets in. But your focus should never be on making them regret. It should be on making yourself proud. True strength is in silence. It is in moving forward with dignity. It is in refusing to let someone's betrayal turn you bitter. It is in becoming so focused on your own happiness that their presence or absence makes no difference. And once you reach that place, once you truly embrace your own worth, you will realize that the best revenge is not proving anything to them. It is proving to yourself that you never needed them in the first place. When someone hurts you, the natural response is often to react, to confront, to express your pain, to seek answers. But true power lies not in reaction, but in control. It lies in how you choose to carry yourself in the aftermath and the way you rise above the situation instead of allowing it to consume you. People who hurt others are often expecting a response. They expect anger, sadness, a plea for an explanation. When you deny them that reaction, you shift the power dynamic entirely. The most confusing thing to someone who thought they had the ability to break you is to see you remain unaffected. When you refuse to respond with emotion, you send a silent but powerful message. Their actions have no control over you. That is the ultimate strength, the ability to remain composed when someone expects you to fall apart. Many people do not realize this, but silence is often the loudest response. When someone knows they hurt you and they see you walk away without a word, without chasing them, without needing closure, they are left to sit with their own actions. They are forced to reflect on what they did, not because you told them, but because your absence says everything. Most people who inflict pain do so because they are seeking a reaction. They want to feel important. They want to feel like they have power over your emotions. But when you refuse to engage in their game, when you remain unshaken, it leaves them questioning. They start to wonder if they truly meant anything to you, if they ever had the effect on you that they believed they did. That kind of confusion is far more impactful than any words you could ever say. Instead of allowing their actions to consume your thoughts, redirect your energy toward yourself. Focus on your own growth, on becoming better, stronger, more fulfilled. The most powerful transformation happens when you take your pain and turn it into progress. When you invest in yourself, in your happiness, in your success, you shift the entire narrative. Suddenly, they are no longer the center of your story you are. There is nothing more unsettling to someone who expected you to struggle than seeing you thrive. When they realize that their actions did not define your path, that you did not crumble under the weight of their betrayal, they begin to question themselves. And in that questioning, they start to feel the weight of what they have done. Not because you sought revenge, but because they now see what they lost. But by then, it is no longer about them, it is about you and the life you have built beyond them. You must understand that your energy is precious. Every moment spent dwelling on someone who hurt you is a moment taken away from your growth. The best thing you can do is shift your focus entirely. Pour into yourself the love and attention you once gave so freely to them. Build yourself into someone so unshakable, so fulfilled, that their absence feels like nothing more than a passing moment. When you reach that point, you will see that you never needed them to begin with. Many times people expect to be missed. They expect to leave a lasting wound. But when you continue living your life as if their actions had no lasting effect, it forces them to confront a reality they were not prepared for. They begin to realize that they were not as significant as they believed. That realization is what truly unsettles them, not because you intentionally tried to confuse them, but because you showed them that their power over you was an illusion. Healing is not about getting back at someone. It is about choosing yourself over and over again. It is about refusing to let someone's inability to appreciate you define your worth. It is about realizing that their presence in your life was never what made you valuable. The moment you fully embrace that, you break free from their influence entirely. Time has a way of revealing the truth. The person who thought they could walk away without consequence will one day come to understand what they lost. But by the time they do, you will be so far ahead, so deeply immersed in your own success and happiness, that their realization will no longer matter to you. And that is the ultimate victory, not proving anything to them, but proving to yourself that their actions were never capable of breaking you. Your greatest strength lies in your ability to rise, to rebuild, to become so focused on your future that the past no longer has power over you. That is how you truly win, not through retaliation, not through words, but through a life lived so fully, so beautifully, that their absence becomes insignificant. The best response is not anger, not resentment, not proving a point, but simply becoming so strong in your own worth that no one's actions can ever shake you again. When someone hurts you, the instinctive reaction is often to respond, to demand explanations, to express pain, to make them understand how deeply they have wounded you. But the most powerful thing you can do is to withhold that reaction, to rise above their expectations, and to maintain a level of self-control that leaves them questioning everything. When you refuse to play into the emotional turmoil they may have expected, you take back your power in a way that is both empowering and confusing to them. People often hurt others because they seek a reaction. They want to feel significant, to have control, to see that they matter enough to shake you. When you deny them that satisfaction, they are left with nothing but their own actions to reflect on. Silence in these moments is not weakness, it is a statement. It says, "You do not hold the power to disturb my peace." And that in itself is the greatest confusion you can create. When someone expects you to break, to beg, to argue, and instead you respond with unwavering calm, it disrupts everything they assumed about you. It forces them to confront their own actions without the distraction of your emotions. It makes them wonder if they ever truly mattered to you, if their presence in your life had any real impact. That doubt, that questioning is far more powerful than any words you could say. The key to overcoming pain is not to fixate on the person who caused it, but to redirect that energy into yourself. When you focus on self-improvement, on healing, on becoming the best version of yourself, you shift the entire dynamic. You are no longer a victim of their actions, you are a creator of your own destiny. You become someone who is too busy building a future to dwell on the past, and that realization, more than anything else, is what truly unsettles them. Most people who cause pain assume that they will leave a lasting mark. They expect to be remembered, to hold space in your thoughts, to be the source of your sadness. But when you continue to thrive, to laugh, to succeed without them, it disrupts everything they believed. They start to wonder why they did not have the impact they assumed they would. And in that wondering, they begin to question their own significance. Nothing confuses someone more than realizing that they were not as important to your life as they thought. When they see you moving forward, not looking back, not seeking validation or closure, it forces them to face the reality that their absence does not define you. And that realization often comes with regret. But by the time they recognize what they lost, you've already moved so far ahead that their thoughts no longer matter. Your healing is not about them. It is about reclaiming your joy, your confidence, your sense of self-worth. It is about proving to yourself that you are not defined by someone else's mistreatment of you. When you stop focusing on what they did and start focusing on what you can become, you shift your entire perspective. You are no longer waiting for an apology, for validation, for anything outside of yourself. You are choosing to move forward on your own terms. People often underestimate the strength of quiet resilience. They mistake your lack of reaction for indifference, for strength, for something they cannot quite understand. And that uncertainty is what makes them question everything. It is easy to understand anger, to interpret sadness, to feed off of emotional responses. But when there is nothing, no words, no reaction, no sign that they have shaken you, they are left with only themselves to face. Time has a way of revealing truth. The person who thought they could hurt you without consequence will one day come to understand what they lost. They will see the strength you have built, the happiness you have created, the success you have achieved. And in that moment, they will realize that their presence in your life was never essential. But by then, their realization will be too late, because you will already be far beyond their reach. The best response to being hurt is not revenge, not proving a point, not making them feel what you felt. It is becoming so strong, so fulfilled, so at peace with yourself that their actions become irrelevant. It is showing yourself that your happiness is not dependent on anyone else, that your worth is not defined by someone who failed to see it. And when you reach that point, when you truly embrace your own strength, you will see that the best way to confuse someone who hurt you is to live as if they never had the power to hurt you at all. When someone hurts you, the natural reaction is to question why. You wonder what you did to deserve it, what you could have done differently, and why they chose to treat you that way. But the truth is, dwelling on those questions only gives them more power over you. The real strength comes from shifting your focus not toward them, but toward yourself. It is in realizing that their actions say more about them than they do about you. When you stop searching for explanations and instead choose to rise above the pain, you reclaim your own power. One of the most powerful things you can do when someone hurts you is to remain composed. They expect an emotional response, anger, sadness, desperation. They expect you to seek answers, to plead, to try to make sense of it all. When you refuse to give them that reaction, you take away the satisfaction they may have been seeking. Instead of engaging in the emotional turmoil they created, you show them that their actions have no control over you. And nothing is more confusing to someone who intended to hurt you than realizing they did not succeed. When you carry yourself with grace in the face of hurt, it forces the other person to sit with their own actions. Without your emotional reaction to distract them, they are left to deal with their own conscience. They begin to wonder if they ever truly mattered to you, if they had any real impact on your life. That kind of uncertainty is far more powerful than any words you could say. Silence is often the most profound response because it forces them to fill in the blanks themselves. They do not get the satisfaction of knowing how you feel, and that can be more unsettling than anything else. Rather than seeking closure from them, you must create it for yourself. Closure is not about getting an apology, an explanation, or validation from the person who hurt you. It is about deciding that you do not need those things to move forward. It is about recognizing that their behavior is a reflection of them, not of your worth. When you reach that understanding, you free yourself from the weight of their actions. You no longer need to make sense of their choices because you realize that their choices do not define you. The most powerful way to move forward is to shift your focus entirely. Instead of investing energy into someone who hurt you, invest that energy into yourself. Pour your time, your effort, and your love into becoming the best version of yourself. Work on your goals, build the life you want, and surround yourself with people who genuinely appreciate you. When you do this, you send a clear message not just to them, but to yourself that your happiness is not dependent on anyone else. People who hurt others often assume they will leave a lasting impact. They expect to be remembered, to hold space in your thoughts, to influence your emotions long after they are gone. But when they see you thriving, when they see that their absence has not affected your ability to be happy, it contradicts everything they assumed. They begin to question if they ever truly mattered, and that realization can be deeply unsettling. Healing is not about proving anything to them. It is not about making them regret their actions or making them see what they lost. It is about proving to yourself that you were never defined by their mistreatment. It is about recognizing your own value, your own strength, and your own ability to rise beyond the pain. When you shift your focus in this way, you reclaim your power. You take back control of your narrative. Time has a way of revealing the truth. Eventually, the person who hurt you will come to understand the weight of their actions. They will realize what they lost. They will see the strength you have built, and they will understand that their presence in your life was not as essential as they once believed. But by the time they reach that realization, you will have already moved so far forward that their thoughts no longer matter to you. The greatest victory is not in seeking revenge or proving a point. It is in living your life so fully, so confidently, and so joyfully that their actions become irrelevant. It is in knowing that their inability to treat you with respect does not define your worth. The best way to confuse someone who tried to hurt you is to show them that they never had the power to break you. When you reach that place of strength, you will see that the best response is not in words, but in the life you continue to build without them. When someone hurts you, your first instinct might be to confront them, to demand an explanation, or to express your pain. You want them to know how much they've affected you, how deeply their actions have cut. But reacting in this way only gives them power over you. It keeps you tied to the pain they cause and allows them to dictate your emotions. The real strength comes when you choose to respond differently, not with anger, not with desperation, but with a calm indifference that leaves them wondering. People who intentionally hurt others often expect a reaction. They expect to see you upset, to hear your complaints, to feel a sense of control over how you respond. When you do not give them what they anticipate, you shift the dynamic. Instead of feeding their ego, you leave them with unanswered questions. They begin to wonder why you are not reacting the way they thought you would. That uncertainty creates a confusion that is far more powerful than any argument or emotional response. The best way to confuse someone who hurts you is to show them that their actions do not define your mood, your confidence, or your future. It is easy to let pain consume you, to replay conversations in your mind, to analyze every detail of what happened. But doing so only keeps you stuck in the past. Instead, you must make a conscious choice to shift your focus. Instead of thinking about what they did to you, think about what you can do for yourself. Instead of seeking closure from them, create it for yourself by deciding that you are moving forward regardless of what they think or feel. This kind of self-control is powerful. It sends a clear message that you refuse to be manipulated by someone else's actions. When they see you continuing to live your life without disruption, it forces them to question their own significance. They start to wonder if they ever really mattered to you. They assume they had the power to hurt you deeply. But when they see you thriving, that assumption is shattered. It makes them realize that their presence in your life was not as impactful as they believed. One of the most effective ways to respond to hurt is to focus entirely on self-improvement. When you pour your energy into building a better life, you naturally remove the space they occupied in your mind. Work on your goals, invest in your passions, strengthen your relationships with people who truly care about you. When they see you moving forward without them, it challenges everything they assumed. They expected you to be affected, but instead you are growing. They thought they could break you, but instead you are thriving. There is nothing more unsettling to someone who tried to hurt you than seeing you completely unbothered. If they were expecting to see you miserable, your happiness confuses them. If they were expecting to see you beg for answers, your silence unsettles them. The best response is always to live in such a way that their actions become irrelevant. When you refuse to let them dictate your emotions, they lose their hold over you entirely. People who cause pain often seek validation from their actions. They want to feel powerful. They want to feel like they had an impact. But when their absence does not create the reaction they expected, it forces them to reflect on themselves. They start to wonder if they misjudged the situation. They may even begin to regret what they did. Not because they feel guilt, but because they realize they did not have the effect they intended. But by the time they come to these realizations, you will already be far ahead. You will have moved on, built a stronger version of yourself, and embraced a life that no longer includes them. And that is the ultimate victory. Not in proving anything to them, but in proving to yourself that their actions were never capable of breaking you. Healing is not about making them understand your pain. It is not about making them see what they lost. It is about finding peace within yourself, independent of their recognition. It is about understanding that your value does not diminish because someone failed to see it. The best way to confuse someone who hurt you is to rise so far above the situation that they become irrelevant to your happiness. And when you do that, you will realize that their power over you was only ever an illusion, one that you have now completely shattered. When someone hurts you, the immediate reaction is often emotional. You might feel anger, sadness, or confusion. You might want to ask them why they did it to make them understand how deeply they affected you. But the moment you react in this way, you give them control. You allow their actions to dictate your emotions. And in doing so, you hand them the power. True strength is found in your ability to remain composed, to not let their words or actions shake you, and to continue living as if they never had the power to hurt you in the first place. People expect a reaction. When they hurt you, they assume they will leave a mark on your heart. They believe they will occupy space in your mind long after they are gone. But when you remain unbothered, when you do not seek closure, when you do not chase after them or demand explanations, it confuses them. They start to wonder why you are not reacting the way they expected. They question their own importance in your life. The moment they begin to doubt whether they had any real impact, the power shifts entirely back to you. This is why emotional intelligence is so important. The ability to control your reactions, to manage your emotions, and to detach from situations that no longer serve you is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. When you master this, no one can manipulate your emotions. No one can make you feel small. No one can use your pain as a weapon against you. You become untouchable. Instead of dwelling on the hurt, turn your focus inward. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How can I use this pain to grow? How can I become even stronger as a result of this situation? The moment you shift your perspective, the pain begins to lose its hold on you. It no longer defines you. Instead, it becomes a tool for your growth. Every hardship, every betrayal, every disappointment is an opportunity to evolve. When you start seeing pain in this way, it no longer has the power to break you. When someone expects you to chase after them and instead you move forward without hesitation, it unsettles them. When they think they have left you broken, but instead they see you thriving, it makes them question everything. Did they ever really matter to you? Did they misjudge their importance in your life? These are the questions that start running through their mind when they see you unaffected. And that confusion is far more powerful than any revenge, any argument, or any attempt to prove a point. The best way to handle someone who has hurt you is to make them irrelevant. Not out of spite, not as a way to get back at them, but because you understand that their actions do not define your worth. The moment you realize that your happiness is independent of their behavior, you free yourself completely. You are no longer waiting for an apology. You are no longer seeking an explanation. You are simply moving forward, building a life that no longer includes them. And in doing so, you take back all of the power they thought they had over you. One of the greatest misconceptions people have is that closure comes from another person. They believe they need the one who hurt them to acknowledge the pain, to explain themselves, to offer a sincere apology. But true closure does not come from someone else. It comes from within. It comes from deciding that you are done waiting for answers. It comes from understanding that some people will never take responsibility for what they have done, and that is okay. Because their inability to see your worth does not change the fact that you are valuable. Instead of seeking validation from someone who hurt you, validate yourself. Remind yourself that you deserve love, respect, and kindness. Surround yourself with people who appreciate you, who uplift you, who see your worth without you having to prove it. When you do this, you realize that the person who hurt you was never as significant as they once seemed. They were just a lesson, a chapter in your story, not the entire book. Time always reveals the truth. The person who hurt you may one day come to regret it. They may realize they lost someone who truly cared, someone who brought value to their life. But by the time they come to that realization, you will have already moved on. You will be so focused on your growth, your happiness, and your success that their regrets will mean nothing to you. And that is the ultimate power, not proving anything to them, but proving to yourself that you are always enough. The best revenge is not anger. It is not proving a point. It is not waiting for them to realize their mistake. The best revenge is living a life so full, so rich, and so joyful that their absence feels like a blessing. It is becoming so fulfilled within yourself that you do not even think about whether they regret their actions. It is knowing that their decision to hurt you was their loss, not yours. When you reach this level of self-awareness, nothing can shake you. No betrayal, no heartbreak, no disappointment can break your spirit. Because you understand that your happiness, your worth, and your future were never dependent on anyone else. And that, more than anything, is what truly confuses the people who thought they had the power to hurt you. They expect to see you fall, but instead they see you rise. They expect to see you broken, but instead they see you thriving. They expect to see you stuck in the past, but instead you are moving forward with grace and confidence, and that is how you truly win. Not by seeking validation, not by chasing closure, but by realizing that you never needed them in the first place. Your strength, your happiness, and your success were always within you. And once you embrace that, no one will ever have the power to hurt you again.